the last portion of Genesis tonight, so it's been great, hasn't it? We started after Tabernacles in Genesis, and it's been great. This is our 4th year now doing the Torah portion, and this year it's sticking. It's like when the snow comes and it doesn't stick. This year it's sticking. I can sense it in me and other people. It's sticking. So just stick at it. If you stick at it, it will stick. And that's what I'm finding. You know, so this is only the 4th year. I'm still only a baby. We're all babies, really. Coming out of darkness, coming out of religion, and back into the truth. And it's great. This story, this narrative, it's written by God. This family are created by God to teach us so much about ourselves. We're in this. We see ourselves in this. The Creator's written it this way to communicate to His people. And we are grafted into this family, you know. And I said, like last year, I wouldn't have been able to tell you. I might have scraped together the names of all these people, but I'd never have connected them with who was married to who and who was born to who. This year, it's like I know it's my family, and I know everyone's name, I know when they were born, who they were born to, and that's not to be full of knowledge. It's spiritual. It's a spiritual family, and there's something about connecting with this family through this narrative. You know, so I just want to encourage you to spend the time in that. Getting to know these people. So we finished off, we done alright last week, we got through right to the very end, so we're picking up tonight in chapter 47 and verse 27. That's where this portion starts. And the name of the final portion in Genesis is Vayechi, Vayechi, Vayechi. And we've heard that phrase a few times now. We've had last week was Vayegash, and he drew near. We've had Vayeshev, and he dwelt. Vayishlach, and he sent. And this is Vayechi, and he lived. So you've got Vay and he, Vayechi, and he lived. Because this is all about the life of Jacob, Yaakov. But it's like the one we've done the life of Sarah. And it starts off with the life of Sarah, and straight away she's dying. And it's the same with Yaakov. It's all about the end of his life. Chapter 47, Chapter 47 and verse 27. And we'll see this again, what we've seen a few times now, this interchange of Yaakov's name, then Israel, and it's all the same person, but keeps on talking about his 2 different names. And the other week, we did take this, but it didn't get put on YouTube the other week, but just a little tiny recap, because it was so powerful, that portion, if you remember, where this took place, when Jacob got his name changed. It was so powerful. I love that portion, the wrestling portion. Oh, yeah. And when we read it, though, we seen it was sort of so clear that it was a resurrection message, because remember, the angel came to wrestle with Jacob and then said, let me go, because the day is about to break. And then we cross-referenced it with the gospel narrative of Yeshua in exactly the same scenario, when Miriam of Magdalene was trying to grab hold of him, and he was like, let me go, I've got to ascend. Do you remember? Oh, yeah. That was the story, and we were cross-referencing it and realising that this change that Yaakov went through to become Israel was what we all have to go through. We have to really understand our identity. We need to understand who we are now as new creations. That's why when we have the bread and wine, started to say each week now, our identification with his death is our death. We have died. That's why we're no longer under the law, because we've been judged. Amen. We've paid the price. He's paid the price for us, and we have died in him. That's what it means. We've died to the law. It doesn't mean the law's been nailed to the cross. It means it's had its rightful penalty has been exacted upon us, because we have died. The wages of sin is death, and we've died. It's all good, because we died in the Messiah and rose to a new life in him. That's the truth. And sometimes, and that's what Paul's explaining in Romans 7, even though we are filled with the Spirit, and even though we have got a new created heart that loves the Torah, that's what Paul says in Romans 7, in my inner man, I delight in the Torah of God. That's what Paul says, as a new creation. But nevertheless, we wrestle and we have a war going on here because of this sinful nature that lurks in our bodies. And so the war goes on. And you can see the struggle with Jacob and Israel. And I think a broad way of looking at that is Jacob is speaking about the natural man and Israel is speaking about the spiritual man. And we've all got that choice. We want to be Israel now. We are Israel. We're grafted into Israel. We're part of the Commonwealth of Israel. Let's act like it and talk like it and be like it, you know? Well, that's what this is all about. So chapter 27. So Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen. That's where we finished off last week, wasn't it? And Goshen means drawing near. So Goshen was a very special place, wasn't it? A place of protection, a place of blessing. We'll see that in Exodus, that in Goshen the plagues didn't come near. The darkness stayed away and the swarm stayed away. Goshen was safety. And we need to know this place. With what's coming upon the world, we need to know this place. We better find this location and know it and dwell there. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. We better know them Psalms with what's coming on the world now. You know, we need to be strong this thing. And you only get that by drawing near, by being humble, and by asking him for these things. I said it last week, and you'll hear me say it a lot more. I am praying much more these days for strength, for what's to come. I want to be one of them standing there. Everything else is falling around you like that. You want to be standing there strong. You want to be standing there unmoved, full of faith, and being a light to the people around us. That's who we wouldn't be here if we weren't being called to that. We're being called to that. And I just want to be one of them, don't you? Strong. What Daniel said, the people in that day who know their God will be strong and they will do exploits. We've got the opportunity to be that people. And that's why we're here. It's a miracle. It's a miracle, isn't it? We're keeping the Sabbath and the feasts. It's great. Thank you, Father, for this. Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions there, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. I love that word, exceedingly. And Jacob, see his name's changed already. Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. And that's important, because we've seen, didn't we, at the start of this narrative about Joseph, it said that Joseph was 17, wasn't it? He was 17, and that's when Jacob sent him to go and search for his brothers. And then the next thing is, he's getting thrown down a pit and getting sold into Egypt at the age of 17. Well, that was the first 17 years of Joseph's life was spent with Jacob, and the last 17 years of Jacob's life are with Joseph. And this number 17 is so important. I'm not really a biblical numerologist. I know it's so valuable, but I don't really do them numbers all the time. But sometimes they just get thrown out at you, and you've got to embrace them and go, right, what's this about? What's this 17 about? The first 17 years in Genesis 37 was Joseph with Jacob. The last 17 years of Jacob's life is what this is about. And I asked George this week tonight, I said, what's the number 17 about? And you said straight away, it's the biblical number of victory, didn't you? Victory. And that's pretty well accepted, that it's the number of victory. But why is it the number of victory? Why? Well, can anyone remember the first time you come across the number 17 in Genesis? Don't worry if you can't, but you'll remember it, right? The Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of Noah. The Ark of Noah. What happened with the Ark of Noah? It said, didn't it? On the 17th day of the 7th month, the Ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. And what did Ararat mean? Curse reversed. That's what Ararat means. Just have to look in the Blue Letter Bible. Ararat, go into the section and it'll come up. Curse reversed. So on the 17th day of the 7th month, the Ark rested on the mountains of Ararat and the curse was reversed. And that was all pointing forward to the day of Yeshua's resurrection. because Yeshua was resurrected on the 17th day of the month. Because he died on the 14th day of the month, and he said, I'm going to be in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights. So all you've got to do is add 14 and 3, and you'll get 17. And that is the day of Yeshua's resurrection. That's when Yeshua came out of the grave. The curse was reversed, because he who knew no sin became a sin offering for us. He became cursed for us, and when he rose from the dead, he rose for our justification. Our justification. The price was paid, and Yeshua rose from the grave on the 17th day of the month. And that's why the biblical number of victory is 17. That's fair, isn't it? And there's plenty of other little interesting little things. A lot of people love that Romans 8. You know what? Let's just quickly go there. But that Romans 8. That Romans 8 chapter. Well, it says in verse 35, who shall separate us from the love of Messiah? Who or what can possibly separate us from the love of Messiah? And then he goes through it. Shall tribulation, or distress, or persecution, or famine, or nakedness, or peril, or sword, and so on. And then he carries on in verse 38, I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, or height, or depth, or any other created thing shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in the Messiah, Yeshua our Lord. And if you add that up, it's a list of 17. There's 17 things listed there that cannot separate us from the love of God. 17 is the number of victory. 17 is a great number. Very important biblical number. The children of Israel crossed the Red Sea on the 17th day of the first month. It's all a picture. That's why it's telling us this info that Jacob lived for 17 years in the land of Egypt. Let's just carry on. So the length of Jacob's life was 147 years. I'm not going to go there with the 147 because they can get carried away with these numbers. You know, you can do it. People start doing all kinds of things like that. Yeah, what? So we'll just keep it nice and simple. Just remember 17. 17 is the number of victory. 17 is the number of the day of Yeshua's resurrection. All you got to do is count 14 and 3. Get into this. Verse 29. When the time drew near that Israel must die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, now, if I have found favour in your sight, please. I love it. This word's just everywhere now. But it's so covenantful because that's what he's saying. He's going to ask him now to do exactly what Abraham asked his servant to do. Please, put your hands under my thigh and deal kindly and truly with me. Please. Do not bury me in Egypt. And this is exactly what happened when Abraham sent his servant to find a bride for Isaac. He said, please put your hand under my thigh and swear an oath. And this is why, this is covenant stuff, this. And George brought a great one out at that time about where the English gets its word for testimony from. Testament, because putting a hand on the thigh was in the area of the testicles. And that's why the Englands have adapted it to become a testimony and testament. Same thing, what's going on here? Hand under the thigh, swear an oath. Verse 30, don't bury me in Egypt, but let me lie with my fathers. You shall carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burial place. And he said, I will do as you have said. Then he said, swear to me. And so he, Joseph, swore to Jacob. So Israel bowed himself on the head of the bed. I love that. He's taken an oath. You know, this is covenant language. And Jacob knows the picture now. His spirit revived last week, didn't he? At the age of 130. And he saw them chariots coming. And he saw them wheels turning. And it's like the penny dropped and he went, I get it now. I get the picture. God told my great-grandfather Abraham that we would be sojourners in a land that wasn't ours, and that we'd be in a country where we'd be oppressed. And he can see it is happening now, because his little boy Joseph's now a big boy Joseph, and he's the ruler of all Egypt. And Joseph had said to his brothers, don't blame yourselves for what you did, lads. This was God's plan all along. God sent me here to preserve a great deliverance. And it's like pennies are dropping now and they're realising, wow, you've meant all this for deliverance. And so Jacob's heart revived. You know, we can see that God is not going to fail, that the plan of God is going to come to pass. That's why when we get to chapter 49, these are great prophetic words for these last days. Not a word of God's word will fail. Not one word of his word will fail. And that's what gives you faith. That's what it says in it. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. It's just how it works. It's spiritual. You read it in the parables. The farmer's scratching his head going, I don't know how this works. I just put a seed in the ground, the next thing, come on, I don't know. And that's why that's a parable. It's spiritual. You can't see how it works, but if you just submit to the word of God, attend to the word of God, abide in the word of God, it will set you free. It will give you a spiritual perspective and have a spiritual mind. You can't do this in the natural, can you? You can't do this in the natural. We need to cling to him, cry out for mercy and grace and understanding and zeal and hunger and thirst. Don't take these things for granted. God, I hate it when I feel my hunger levels drop. It's like I'm straight in there. Father, give me hunger. I can feel the levels dropping. Give me zeal. And he always does. It's like great. All you got to do is ask. All you got to do is ask. It's called humility. Beautiful. Chapter 48. I love that though. Swearing, you know. This is what when we get into the commandments and it's saying, don't take the Lord's name in vain. It's talking about that. Don't swear by Yah. Or Yeshua said, look, don't swear at all by anyone. Just let your yet be yet, you know. Don't be swearing in his name and breaking oaths. That's taking his name in vain. And that's why he instituted it. If there was disagreements between people, if there's accusations going on, you've robbed my ox or whatever, then all you'd have to do is take an oath and say, look, I'm swearing in the name of Yah, I didn't rob your ox. And that's the end of the matter. If someone's stupid enough to lie in the name of Yah, then you're dealing with him about it. But as far as we're meant to go, it's to preserve human relationships, to go, that's the end of the matter now. Do not swear falsely in his name. So this is so covenantal, this is where it originates from. Swear to me. And he swore to him. So Israel bowed himself on the head of the bed. Chapter 48. Now it came to pass after these things that Joseph was told, indeed your father is sick. So he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Yaakov, Jacob, was told, look, your son Joseph is coming to you. And Israel strengthened himself and sat up on the bed. Then Yaakov said to Joseph, God Almighty, El Shaddai, that is, El Shaddai appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me. We covered that the other week. Remember, Luz became Bethel, didn't it? The house of God. But its former name was Luz. And what did that mean? Luz. Almond tree, wasn't it? Almond tree. And we looked at it then, that the almond tree always speaks about the Messiah and resurrection. Because, and Joan, who's not here tonight, but Joan got it straight away. She said, where do we see almonds? And she said, the rod that budded, Aaron's rod, thank you. And that's, so when we see almonds in the Bible, they're always speaking of this resurrection, the Messiah. And so this place of Bethel used to be called Luz, because that's the house of God. It's the same now, it's a Temple Mount in Jerusalem. That's where Yaakov had this first encounter with God. Remember when he's seen the ladder set up? And he said to me, verse 4, behold, this is God speaking, I will make you fruitful and multiply you, and I will make of you a multitude of people, and give this land to your descendants after you as an everlasting possession. Someone tell the UN about that, will you? Someone tell Theresa May about that, our Prime Minister, and the Archbishop of Liverpool or the Bishop of Liverpool. Why don't these people read the Bible? All they have to do is read the Bible, and we wouldn't have to have any peace talks, any UN, whatever, any votes at the UN. Just read that. God has promised Jacob to give the land of Israel as an everlasting possession. There's no, I know what I see on the news. The vicar or the bishop of Bethlehem, and you can imagine where he's coming from. He's an Arab, Christian Arab, and he said, if you're going to start bringing divine rights into this, we've got no chance. It's not about divine rights, it's about human rights. And this is the bishop of Bethlehem with his dog collar on, giving an order, saying that we shouldn't consider divine rights. Just because God said, that's not what it's about anymore. We're into human rights now, and let's be fair. It's like, no, let's just be biblical. Let's be biblical. God has given this land to the children of Israel forever, and I am made up to be on the right side of this argument. I am made up to be on the right side of it, even if there's only about 10, 20, whatever of us there is. We're on the same side of God. We're on his side, so we are in the majority, But if people would just read the Bible, they wouldn't be having this discussion. It's Israel's land. Verse 5, and now your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Egypt, before I came to you in Egypt, are mine. As Reuben, who was his firstborn, and Simeon, they shall be mine. And that is what it is. Jacob is adopting the two sons of Joseph. He's saying, your two sons that were born to you in Egypt before I got here, they are now my two sons. They are now mine. And this is a picture of the gospel, because we are adopted into his family.
But with the birthright, so Joseph got the birthright, we got the double portion.
Well, I'm going to come to that. Well, the portion is going to come to that. And this is just setting it up now. So I wanted to just mention that now, is he's telling you quite clearly now, he's adopting Ephraim and Manasseh, just as Reuben and Simeon, which was his firstborn and his secondborn, and now Ephraim are going to take that role through adoption. So let's just spend a little time on that bit, on adoption. It's always good to just read the scriptures. Galatians chapter 4. Galatians chapter 4. And then Romans chapter 8. Just the two scriptures that we've got about adoption, but this should make sense of it. You read these things in the New Testament like we have done for years, and if you haven't got the Torah foundation of it, it just goes through your understanding. It doesn't actually sit and stay with you. But when you get it from the Torah, and then you get the New Testament explaining it, then it sticks. And that's what I'm saying this year. It's sticking. I can sense it sticking. It all knits together and comes together. Well, this is what's going to happen in these last days, prophetically speaking. And we can benefit from it now. Galatians chapter 4, verse 4. When the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption as sons. And because you are sons, God has sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying out, Abba, Father. I love that. I cry that out because I know why. I know when I do it, I'm doing what the Bible's saying. It's not me, it's the Spirit of God in me doing it. So if we want to be spiritual, it's things like that are what being spiritual is. Going, Abba, Abba. The release of that's beautiful. You're connecting, you're identifying with who you are. Your spirit is a child of God, and you are going, Abba. And this all happens through adoption. That's how it happens. We are adopted. So humbling, isn't it? We've been adopted by the creator of the universe. Verse 7 of that Galatians, therefore you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of God through the Messiah. And in Romans 8, it's just saying the same sort of thing, but it's still powerful, so I'll read it out. Romans 8, verse 15. Let's read from verse 12. Therefore, brethren, Romans 8, verse 12. Therefore, brethren, we are debtors, not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. Because if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, these are the sons of God. For you did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you received the Spirit of adoption, by whom we cry out, Abba, Father, because the Spirit himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God. And if children, then heirs of God, and joint heirs with the Messiah. I mean, that is great news, isn't it? And this is how we biblically understand this. We're adopted. That's why later in Galatians, when Paul's given the allegory of Sarah and Hagar, and he's saying, come on, use that want to be under the Torah, under the law. Don't you know what the Torah teaches? Abraham had two children, one by the bondwoman and one by the free woman. And yous are not children of the bondwoman. Yous are children of the free woman. And then he tells us who that free woman is. It's the New Jerusalem. That's what it says, the heavenly Jerusalem. And then he says it quite clearly in Galatians 4, the heavenly Jerusalem, which is the mother of us all. That's our mother. That's what it says. The heavenly Jerusalem is the mother of us all. And then he quotes from Isaiah, saying, "Break forth into singing, cry aloud, you who have not born, you who have not been in labour, because much more are the children of the barren than the woman of bondage." And that's how on earth can that be? How can a woman bear children without being in labour? Through adoption. This is how it works. We've been adopted through Yeshua's labour on the cross. That's what Isaiah 53 says. He saw the labour of his soul. And that's what calls us to be born again. This is what Yeshua said. You must be born from above. You've got to be born again, and you must be born from above. And that's what Paul's explaining in Galatians 4. You have your new mum is called the heavenly Jerusalem. That's your new mum. Say hi to your new mum. That's who your new mum is. The heavenly Jerusalem is your new mother. And you are adopted into that family. That's just the truth. And that's what he's saying here. He's adopting, back into Genesis chapter 48, verse 5. He is adopting these. Jeremiah 31 as well. And sometimes I like to read the prophets out on behalf of Israel, basically, and on behalf of what God's doing in the world in our day right now. Because this is what he's doing today. He's gathering back, isn't he? Gathering the whole house of Israel back together again. Reuniting Judah with Israel once again. It's happening. But it says here, just so we know, we need to understand these things biblically, who these people are. Ephraim, it says in chapter 31 of Jeremiah, which is a great chapter, you know. Sometimes I read all this and think I'm going to get a chance to read it all out, but we never have. So if you're one of those people that goes away and studies, it's chapter 31 of Jeremiah is a good one to read. But it says, this is talking about the regathering. It says in verse 7, "For thus says Yah, sing with gladness for Jacob, and shout among the chief of the nations. Proclaim, give praise, and say, O Yahovah, save your people, the remnant of Israel. Behold, I will bring them from the north country, and gather them from the ends of the earth. Among them the blind and the lame, the woman with child, and the one who labours with child together. A great throng shall return there. They shall come with weeping, and with supplications I will lead them. I'll cause them to walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way in which they shall not stumble." Praise God. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Now it's clear, isn't it? Ephraim is my firstborn. He's Jacob's grandson. He's not even one of the proper children of Jacob, but he is the firstborn of Israel. Because that's what's happening here, as George has already said, and we'll see it now. So we won't have to go back to that now. You've heard that. Verse 6, your offspring, whom you beget after them, shall be yours. So you can have any more kids, Joseph, they're yours, but them two, they're mine. They will be called by your name, by the name of their brothers and their inheritance. Verse 7, lovely passage. But as for me, when I came from Paddan, Rachel died beside me in the land of Canaan on the way, when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrat, and I buried her on the way to Ephrat, that is Bethlehem, Beit Lechem, the house of bread. So he's reminiscing here because this was Joseph's mum, wasn't it? Basically he's saying, you know, when your mum died, you know, she died and I had to bury her. Joseph had only been a little kid at this stage, and she gave birth to his son, to her next son, Benjamin, which is Joseph's full brother. And so Jacob's just reminding them of this and making them understand that this was all still part of the plan. This was all still part of God's plan, because that comes very important later on, doesn't it? Beit Lechem, Bethlehem, because this is where the Messiah was born, wasn't it? And this is part of the prophecy. When Rachel was buried there, Rachel will be seen weeping for her children because of the massacre that took place in Bethlehem from King Herod when he tried to destroy the Messiah. So, you know, these are all relevant issues, these names. Verse 8, then Israel saw Joseph's sons and said, who are these? And Joseph said to his father, they are my sons. It's almost like a bit like, hang on, these are my sons. You know, you just tried to have them off me. They're my sons, whom God has given me in this place. And he said, please bring them to me, and I will bless them. It says in Hebrews chapter 11, I'll just read that now before we get any further. Hebrews chapter 11 is the faith chapter, isn't it? And we've mentioned this a few times in the last few weeks, because Abraham's in there, Isaac's in there, and now Jacob's in there. In Hebrews 11 verse 21 it says, by faith Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each one of the sons of Joseph and worshipped, leaning on the top of his staff. So this incident now, it's telling us that Jacob done this by faith. He knew what he was doing here. It's going to tell us in a minute that his eyesight was dim. He couldn't really see very well. But all of this is done by faith, because the one thing he could do, Israel could see spiritually. He didn't have good eyesight, but he could see spiritually. And that's why he's like that. You know, who are these? And there's a bit of like, what's going on here? 1 minute you can see, next minute you can't see. Well, he can see in the spirit. And that's what it says. We don't walk by sight, we walk by faith. And so Jacob, Israel, at this stage now in his life, is totally in faith and doing all this. He's being led by the Spirit. Not being sentimental and emotional, he's being totally led by the Spirit to adopt these two children, all prophetic picture of how salvation will come to us. Because these two kids, they're not full Israelites, are they? Joseph's a Hebrew, but his wife's a sun-worshipping priest, the daughter of this Potiphar, the Egyptian priest. So these two kids are a bit mixed, aren't they?
But they're men, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, are they at this stage any men now?
They were born before he came into Egypt. So
okay, that's a great point. So they'd be past 17. That's a great point, that, yeah. Great point. Yeah, very good.
I had never seen them.
That's right, I've never seen them before. So Joseph said to his father, verse 9, they are my sons whom God has given me in this place. And he said, bring them to me, please, and I'll bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim with age, so that he could not see. Then Joseph brought them near him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, I had not thought to see your face, but in fact God has shown me. your offspring. So again, he's seeing them, but he's not seeing them. He's seeing them in faith. God has shown me, God has revealed to me something about these. And it's major what he's going to do. So Joseph, verse 12, brought them from beside his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and brought them near. You should have all that violins and cellos, all that playing now. They're dramatic. Then Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head. And the reason I'm saying you should have all that music going on is because this is dramatic. And when you see that phrase, Israel stretched out his hand, it's so biblical and covenantal, isn't it? Because Abraham stretched out his hand to kill Isaac, and the angel said, don't do it, Abraham. I have seen that you are willing to offer your only son. Don't do it. But this stretching out of the hand is it's redemption. It's a redemptive act, because Yeshua stretched out his hands, didn't he? You know, it's all about that, stretching out of the hand. We'll see in a couple of weeks. Moses is told to stretch out his hands over the Red Sea, and the Red Sea will pass. All of this stretching out of the hand, it's very messianic, because Yeshua is the right hand of God. He is the right hand of God. He is God, but the right hand is always showing that the Son of God and what he would do. And so when Jacob now is stretching out his right hand, that's trying to show you all kinds of harps playing, because it's so wow what he's about to do. He's about to pass on the messianic blessing of the right hand.
And the hand over Jacob and Esau as well.
What?
Hand over Jacob and Esau.
Yeah.
And his blessing then.
That's it. Yeah. So that's stretching out the hand. He loves that God. He loves that language. He wants us praying like that. Oh, Father, stretch out your hand. Stretch out. He loves all that. He loves that language. It's his language. That's how he wants us to stretch out your hand, Lord God. Visit us again, Father. This is what he says in Jeremiah 16, isn't it? When he says, the nations will come from the ends of the earth and say, we've inherited lies and worthless things from our fathers. And he says, once again, I will stretch out my hand again. He's going to stretch out his hand again. We're there now, you know, and people are crying out for this.
Another picture, Joseph prostrated himself before his father.
That's beautiful.
Yes, he was the chief in the...
Yes, George, well said. That's beautiful.
Yes.
Amen. Yeah, that's right what George is saying there. Joseph's like, he's a don now. He's in charge of Egypt. Whatever he says goes, and now he is humbling himself before his dad. It's a beautiful picture of what, if we get there.
Both commandments, honour your father and mother.
Correct. These are Torah people, aren't they?
Amen.
These are Torah people, these. So he lays it on Ephraim's head, though, his right hand, and he was the younger. And his left hand he laid on Manasseh's head, guiding his hands knowingly. Knowingly. The word for that in Hebrew is with wisdom and with understanding. He was totally in the spirit. He knew what he was doing. Joseph brought he wanted his older son to be blessed by the right hand, and he wanted his youngest son Ephraim to be having the left hand on him. But Jacob does it knowingly, and he crosses his hands. And a lot of people make a lot of that crossing of the hand, because in the Paleo Hebrew, he'd be making the sign of the letter Tav, which is the last letter, isn't it? Yeah. The Aleph and the Tav, and he was making the covenant sign. This is what some people say, and I suppose it was. So that's all right. Verse 15, and he blessed Joseph and said, God, Elohim, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has fed me all my life long to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads. Let my name be named upon them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. This is what's happened. This is history now. This is what's took place. Now, when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. So he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. And Joseph said to his father, "Not so, my father. This one's the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head." But his father refused and said, "I know, my son, I know. He shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly, the younger brother shall be greater than he, and his descendants shall become a multitude of nations." And you've got to just take this for what it says. This is what it says. Ephraim is going to become a multitude of nations. And this is the gospel. The gospel is for everybody, isn't it? Because this phrase, when you'd have to not see this in the Greek, in the Septuagint version of Hebrew scriptures, this phrase is translated the same as what Paul uses in Romans 11 when he says that partial blindness has happened to Israel. It's partial, it's temporal, it's going to be reversed one day. And when will that day be? When the fullness of the Gentiles comes in. The fullness of the Gentiles is the same phrase as this. It just is. There's nothing I can do about it, I'm sorry. Multitude of nations equals fullness of the Gentiles. It just does in Greek. You'd have to see it in its Septuagint. Says it in there, does it? So thank you, Ray. That's, you know, just want to establish that I haven't got a Septuagint, I can't read Greek. You know, I just learn these things, I go away and check these things as the best I can. And that's, so it's good to have that confirmation. This is now talking about the fullness of the nations coming in. This is the work of God right now. You know, thank God we had Jews here last week, and they were believers in the Messiah, and there's going to be more and more of them, because this is what God has said in his word. This is what he's going to do. But I just think you need to weigh this scripture with this now, before, you know, and I'm still like, you know, I hear different opinions on this, so I just wanted to put this part into the mix as well. Chapter 49 of Isaiah. Chapter 49 of Isaiah. And this is another one of them chapters. If we had time, well, we would read it all. So I would encourage you to read, really, I would encourage you to read all of chapter 49. Because it's that good. It's that great. It really is. But Isaiah 49, it's brilliant, this. It's about the Messiah. And I can't read it all, I haven't got time. But it says in verse 6, "Indeed, he says to me," let's read verse 5. Verse 5, "And now Yahuwah says, who formed me," capital M, it's about the Messiah, "from the womb to be his servant, to bring Yaakov back to him." This is what he's done. It's what Yeshua said. "I've come for the lost sheep of the house of Israel." He wants to gather them back. He rejected them the first time, and even that was the plan of God, wasn't it? Even that, God was going to turn around so that he could then spend his time or pay his attention to the Gentiles for the last couple of thousand years, etc. But he always had this plan to bring back Israel, so that Israel is gathered to him. "For I shall be glorious in the eyes of Yah," this is the Messiah, "and my God shall be my strength." Amen. "Indeed," he says, look at this, "it is too small a thing that you should be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserved ones of Israel. I also will give you as a light to the Gentiles, that you should be my salvation to the ends of the earth." So I just want to blend that. You know, when you see that Ephraim is going to become a multitude of nations, it's just the way it's happened. That is history now. Ephraim and Manasseh, a lot of people say it's America and UK, and I probably would agree with that a lot. I do. But this just makes an allowance, because God's not just solely interested in this family of 12 tribes. It is also the whole world. And that's what it says in Isaiah. It's too small a thing that you should do this just for Jacob and just for the lost sheep of Israel. This will be for everybody. This is for the ends of the earth. But it just so happens that that's where this tribe has ended up, scattered throughout the whole earth. So sure there's some sort of, sense in that. Is that okay?
Yeah, well, the pact was made when Joseph was in Egypt, they were getting the grain, and they saved all of the Egyptians because he provided them with food, and then he provided the food for the Jacob and his sons.
Yeah.
So it means that was a complete salvation.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. So, alright, nations, verse 20. So we blessed them on that day, saying, by you, Israel will bless. And this is what they do, maybe we should start to look at doing these things more biblically. But right now, tonight, all over the world, when Jewish households are getting together for the Shabbat, they have what we do, they have bread and wine, and then they bless in this way, and they lay hands and bless the male kids, and bless them in this way. To this day, this night, throughout the world, Jews are blessing their family in this way. The women get the blessing of Rachel and Sarah and Leah, but the men get this blessing. By you Israel will bless, saying, may God make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And thus he set Ephraim before Manasseh. That's fair, isn't it? And that's, that is a blessing that I think maybe we should try to use more, and blessing like that, because that's what it's saying here. This is how you should bless. May God make you as Ephraim and Manasseh. Verse 21, and Israel said to Joseph, behold, I am dying, but God will be with you, and bring you back to the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to you one portion above your brothers, because he's the firstborn now, isn't he? And the firstborn, that's how it works, the firstborn got an extra portion. And so it's only right that Joseph gets the extra portion. He was always the firstborn, Joseph, wasn't he? He got the coat of many colours at the start. Jacob knew this was the son, this was the favourite son.
And he should have been the firstborn.
It's because he was the son's the woman that he really loved.
He was, yeah.
Because he should have been the firstborn, because he should have married Rachel, but here he's put in his place.
So he's given them another portion above your brothers, which I took from the hand of the Amorites with my sword and my bow. And what I understand about that is that portion is the place when, in John 4, when the woman at the well turns up, and she's like, this is the well that Jacob gave to us. And that's the area known as Ephraim. And this is where Joseph ended up getting buried and all the rest of it. A place called Shechem, which is now modern day Nablus, where Joseph's bones are buried. So that's what I'm led to believe. Now this chapter 49, honestly, it's poetry, this, and it's so deep that we can only scratch the surface of it. If anyone's got insights, share it, please. But I think this is an ongoing one, this. I just think this is meant to really draw you in and become a meditation, because it's so important. Because look what he says, chapter 49, Jacob called his sons together, and said, gather together, that I may tell you what shall befall you in the last days. That's what this is. This is a last days prophecy. This is how it's going to go down. There's no doubt about it. This is prophecy regarding the last days. It says that in the Word of God. That's what it says. Couldn't be any clearer. And you've only got to look at Revelation 7. I'm not going to read it all, but just so you can be aware of it. I'm sure you are. Revelation 7 is when we see 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes, and they are the famous 144,000. We've all heard of them. Well, the 144,000 are definitely 12,000 from the 12 tribes. God knows who the tribes are. People are doing all kinds of DNA tests and everything now, come back on, I'm from Judah, and it's like, God knows who they are. I'm not going for a DNA test. I just know I'm a new creation. You know, I'm grafted in. And, you know, when God goes, you're in that tribe, go through that gate, because Revelation, the New Jerusalem, there's 12 gates. And every one of them is named after the children of Israel. So, you know, we better get used to this. We better get used to this tribal identity. Because when you want to go through one of the gates to enter Jerusalem, you need to go through one of the tribe's gates. So if we get stuck into a tribe, amen. But in between now and then, I'm not going to try and work out and all that. I just believe now we're one in the Messiah. That's what he, you know, Messiah is divine, and we're the branches. But this tribal identity continues into the millennium. You can see that, can't you? By the architecture of the New Jerusalem, and by Revelation 7, 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes. So no matter what's going to get said here and what's happened in history, they all, apart from Simeon, are mentioned in Revelation 12. So God will bring them back. There's no doubt about it. And he's going to use these 12,000 from each of the tribes, the 104. And you imagine when they start kicking off, you know, that is going to be evangelism like we have never seen in our lives. Do you know what I mean? Hallelujah. It's going to be done. So verse 2, gather. This is that word kabatz, which is where you get the word kibbutz from. That's exactly how Israel came back to the land, wasn't it? In kibbutzes. They settled the land in kibbutzes, and it's the word kabatz, gathering. So a kibbutz is a gathering. Gather, kibbutz yourselves together, and hear you sons of Jacob, and listen, Shema, to your father Israel. So you got that. So isn't it where his name changes within a verse? Jacob and Israel. It's like, the only sense I can make it that way is the sons, the offspring is going to be like the sand of the seashore, and like the stars in the heaven. You've got like a twofold description, haven't you, of the seed. So I would suggest that Jacob is always talking about the earthly, and the Israel is talking about the heavenly. And that's us. We are spiritual Israel, grafted in, not replacing anyone, joining them. Verse, I don't know how much of this to read. Verse 3, we still got half an hour. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity and the excellency of power. Unstable as water, you shall not excel. This is deep, isn't it? Because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. This is Jacob saying the blessings, if you will. And that's what I'm saying. Even though Reuben now is disqualified as being the firstborn, he loses the firstborn rights of the family now. But he's still here in Revelation 7. He's not done away with. He's not cast into hell. He's there in Revelation 7. His 12,000 of his offspring will be there in Revelation 7 going, sound, here we are. You know, we're going to go to the ends of the earth and do your will, Lord God. So there's always redemption in this. But look what it says about him. This is why he can't be the leader of the family anymore. You are unstable as water. And that is what it is, isn't it? Water's unstable. You've got to tap the table and my wine goes spilling everywhere. You know, in a Bangladesh, when I was doing the worship, it's gone, wines fell everywhere. Because that's the way water is, isn't it? But this is what James says. It makes more sense of what James says this. James chapter 1. You've heard all this before. But it makes a bit more sense when it's sort of got taller foundations. James chapter 1, verse 6. Verse 6, verse 5. If any of you lacks wisdom, I love this. I love how James is just so matter of fact. James just doesn't mess around. If anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting. For he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. That's what he's saying to Reuben. You're unstable, you like water. You're like tossed to and fro. Well, verse 7, let not that man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is double-minded and unstable, just like Reuben, in all his ways. That's powerful, that, isn't it? If you're double-minded, you toss to and fro, you think 1 minute, oh yeah, I'm into that now. Next minute, oh, I'm not into that now. It's like, unstable, and you won't excel. And that doesn't mean, that's why James is saying, if any of you's like that, let him ask. Go to God with it and say, you know what, God, I hate being double-minded. I can't stand double-minded people, and I hate myself when I'm double-minded. I can't stand it because it's unstable. It's pathetic, isn't it? You can't rely on double-minded people who are tossed like the waves, like unstable, like water. You will not excel. That's what he's saying. So all you've got to do is do what James says and pray. Oh God, help me not to be double-minded, Father. Give me a pure heart. Give me an undivided heart. Help me with these doubts. Please get into the doubt. Help me to be a person of faith. And he'll say, I will. Just get in the word. Get in the word then. And you'll be sound. But believe it. Chapter 5, verse 5. Simeon and Levi are brothers, instruments of cruelty are in their dwelling place. Let not my soul enter their council. Let not my honour be united to their assembly. Assembly. Here's the first word that we come across, that assembly. It's, if you read it in Greek, if you read it in Hebrew, it's the word kahal, isn't it? Kahal, where you get kehilah from. Kehilah. But if you're reading this in Greek, it would say ecclesia. That the Septuagint for this is ecclesia. And if you read an ecclesia, you'd see that in the New Testament, wouldn't you? When Yeshua says, I will build my ecclesia upon this rock. And we've got it translated in English as church, haven't we? And that means absolutely nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a noun, just a word that they plucked up with, and it's evolved from circus, as you said. It's a circus, a circle. It became a kirche, a church, and it doesn't mean anything. If you're going to use the word, use it here, because it's in the Greek. It's ecclesia. So if you're going to translate ecclesia here as assembly, why not translate it in the New Testament as assembly, and vice versa? Why are you trying to make out that this church is some new concept now? No, there's always been an assembly of God. It started off with Abraham, then it became Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, and now Jacob's 12 kids, and there's 70 that have gone down into Egypt. That's the assembly of God. And if you're going to be consistent, if you want to use the word church, well, you've got to put church in there. It's the same word in Greek.
Yeah, but by using church, they exclude Jews, don't they?
Well, that's why, well said, George, that's why we've invented it.
Yes.
That's why we've invented it. We've invented this new concept, but we can be totally sure that what was written in the Hebrew, then translated into the Greek, is the same word that's translated as church. It's just the same word. And ecclesia, what does it mean? Called out ones. Called out people. Well, that's what Israel was, wasn't it? Abraham was called out of Babylon, and that's the same family, the same doctrine. So why change the words? To confuse us, as you've said, to disassociate ourselves with this wicked. In their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they hamstrung an ox. Cursed be their anger, for it's fierce, and their wrath, for it's cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. And this is just, as well as being an end days prophecy, it's just what happened, isn't it? History will show us, and as we read through the Torah and Joshua and the division of the land, that's what happened. Simeon and Levi were separated, weren't they? And they didn't have their own allotments. Levi was separated throughout the 12 tribes, and they were spread out. But I listened to the Jewish commentaries as well, and the Jews, the way they put this was lovely. He said, because we were talking about this last night, it says in the Psalms, be angry, don't sin, but be angry. It's right to be angry. What was that anger associated with? The lies we've inherited, the worthless, unprofitable nonsense we've inherited. Be angry about it, just don't sin. So anger is okay, but not this kind of anger. So what the Jews are saying is, God, every tribe needed a little bit of Levi. You need a bit of Levi, and you need a bit of Simeon with you, and that's why they were spread, but not together, because together they go off their heads and they just cause murder. But they are needed. You need to have, in the right balance, you need to be angry about the nonsense we've inherited. You need to be angry that you've been deprived for all of your life up until the last couple of years and 3 years.
A righteous anger, isn't it?
A righteous anger, Silver. It's saying be angry but don't sin. You know, and I need to learn that lesson, do you know what I mean? Because I can fly off the handle a bit over this and offend people. So, and I don't mean to, but I am angry about it. I'm angry that I've been told a pack of lies. I'm angry that I gave my life to Yeshua when I was a 22-year-old drug addict and organising acid house parties, and one of the lads, next minute I'm getting saved and I'm going to a church and I ended up getting told a pack of lies. I'm angry about that, to be honest with you. Angry that I didn't get taught a biblical faith. Angry that I've been a believer for 30 years and didn't get taught the Torah from day one. I'm angry about that. What a waste of years. Waste of my life for 20 odd years of being taught the word of faith nonsense and how to get rich and how to neighbour and claim it. What a pack of lies and pathetic. I mean, it's pathetic. And I'm angry. Don't get me started because I get angry. So, but I'm saying it's okay to be angry. Don't sin. And this is from Psalms. This is Psalm 34. It says this. And then it says, just meditate on your bed. Be still. All of that language of being still, know that I am God. That's what it's attached to. It's like, you know, and I do rejoice in it. I'm like, God, it's a miracle that we're coming back to these things. You know, I thank you for it. And just, that mellows me out a bit.
Yeah.
But I am angry that we even inherited a pack of lies. I'm angry that I got told in a church that I couldn't talk about 3 days and 3 nights. Like, no, we don't want you talking about that. It's like, no, you don't want me talking about 3 days and 3 nights. The only sign Yeshua gave, and I can't talk about it. You're going to laugh at it, that I'm getting forbidden from speaking about 3 days and 3 nights. I can't talk about it. To Christian brothers and sisters, you're having a laugh. See you later. Yeah, get angry about it. You should get angry about it.
Read Job. The Lord will restore the years.
Amen. Amen, Nick. I know. So I'm saying I get a bit out of hand, get a bit angry about this.
Restore Levi as well, because he makes him a priest.
Maybe I'm Simeon or Levi. Maybe I found my identity. Well, that's why I separated them. So I'm saying, you know, maybe we went a bit overboard on that.
But it's also to be separated.
No, but I'm angry about it. You know, I'm angry that I'm considered a loon because I want to keep the feasts of Yahovah and get called legalistic. I'm not, you know what, I'm not even angry about that anymore. I pity these people now. Pity them and pray for them. Like David did over Saul, wept over Saul. This house of Saul is rebelling against the work of God, rebelling against the covenant of God with this make-believe.
Because this is what we call religion.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yes. We do it this way. No, we do that.
No, we want to do it God's way.
Yes, amen.
Verse 8 is all about Judah now. Judah, and you know this is Yeshua's tribe, isn't it? Yeah. So there's a bit of the Messiah in a lot of this, but probably, you know, a lot of it in Judah. Judah, and this is like the play on words now, because Judah, Yehudah, we read about him last week, comes from the word to praise, doesn't it? It comes from the word to praise, and it says, Yehudah, Judah, you are he whom your brothers shall praise. Your hands shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He bows down, he lies down as a lion. And as a lion, who shall rouse him? This is because that's what Yeshua is, isn't he? He's the lion of the tribe of Judah. So this is talking about the Messiah. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes. And to him shall be the obedience of the people. That's beautiful. Because, you know, it's pretty much accepted that this phrase, Shiloh, is the Messiah. You know, I think the most accurate description of Shiloh, or the most accurate translation of it, because it is a little bit obscure, I think the best translation of it is to whom dominion belongs. That's what it means, to the one whom dominion belongs, to him who is the rightful owner, to him who is the righteous king, to him who it all belongs to. Because that's what it says, isn't it? That by him and through him all things were made that were made. It all belongs to him. He is the creator of the universe. None of us would be here without him. He has given us life and we belong to him. And it's just right that one day every single knee will bow and every tongue will confess, because it belongs to him. Thank God that we understand these things now. That's another good point. That's another good point, yeah. Shiloh was the actual location, like Jeff's saying, where the tabernacle was based. So again, that's so much in all of this. I'm just trying to flick through it, really, you know. Binding his donkey to the vine and his donkey's colt to the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine and his clothes in the blood of grapes. And we read that last week or a couple of weeks ago when we read about Joseph and his coat was dipped in goat's blood. And then we went straight to Revelation chapter 19, verse 13 was it, when it says that when Yeshua returns, he will return and his garments will be dipped in blood. His eyes are darker than wine and his teeth whiter than milk, like a bit of a Song of Songs reference. Chapter 30, verse 13, Zebulun shall dwell, another play on words, because Zebulun was Leah's sixth son, wasn't she? He was the sixth son of Leah, and that's when Leah said, now, finally, my husband will dwell with me, because I've given him 6 kids now. Surely he'll dwell with me now. And so she called him Zebulun. And so it's a play on words. Zebulun shall dwell by the haven of the sea. He shall become a haven for ships. And his borders shall adjoin Sidon. I love this chap, Issachar. I just relate to this chap. Issachar is a strong donkey, lying down between 2 burdens. He saw that rest was good. That's a beautiful phrase, you know. That's understanding the gospel. That he understood the gospel. He understood the message, what this is all about. That's why the Sabbath's so important, to enter his rest, to understand what the gospel's about. That's why I love the Sabbath so much. It's a day of rest. It's a day of understanding that the work is done and that there is absolutely nothing you can do to earn salvation. And that's what I meditate mainly on the Sabbath. I just sit and rest and go, it's finished. I am seated in heavenly places. The work is done. And that's what I do. I rest, and I know rest is good. Rest is good. And that the land was pleasant. He bowed his shoulder to bear a burden and became a band of slaves, it says. A band of slaves. And again, I got this off the Jewish people I listened to. And they were saying, this is not as negative as you might think. A band of slaves. Well, it's just a bad translation. It should really be a band of servants. It's the words that's always translated as servants. But what it is about Issachar, what I love so much, in 1 Chronicles 12, you see, you get a little run through of all of the tribes there and how they come to help David and come to rally around David and to make him king. But it says about Issachar at that time, Issachar, they were people that knew the times. They knew the times, Issachar. And why did they know the times? Because in Moses' blessings in Deuteronomy 33, his blessings over Issachar were, they are people that dwell in tents. They were people that stayed indoors and studied Torah. That's what Issachar were. They were the Torah tribe. They were the ones who dedicated themselves to the Torah and said to spies, yeah, you do that and you get the food and the hunting and all that. We'll stay and we'll meditate and study Torah. That's why they knew the times. They were men of understanding because they were men of the word. That's who Issachar are. Tent dwellers. Yeah, tabernacle tents.
Don't put your roots down.
That's right. And they just attended to the word of God. And that's what this fellow was saying. He was saying, when it says a band of slaves, it's more servants because they were serving the body, serving their community through the study of Torah. And so he was saying, it's an honour. It's not a band of slaves, crack the whip. It was a band of bond servants. The highest, Yeshua said, you know, if you want to be great, you've got to be a servant. Yeshua was classed as a servant, wasn't he? He was a bond servant. It says this in Philippians. He made himself of no reputation. He became a bond slave. You know, so being a slave to God is the highest honour, really. And that's who these people were. They understood the times because they were slaves, servants of the Torah. They studied the Torah. And that's what we all should do. But we've all got different roles, let's have it right. And that's what this is all about here. There's different roles, different characters. We'll all identify strongly with some of these people and less with others. I mean, I'm identifying with a few of these, especially them angry ones. But I need to get in my tent more and be like Issachar. Issachar, love him, great. Dan shall judge his people, verse 16, as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, a viper by the path, that bites the horse's heels, so that its rider shall fall backwards. All I'm going to say about that is it just takes you straight to Genesis 3, verse 15, and so on, isn't it? When he says, I will put enmity between your seed and the seed of the woman. You shall bite his heel, and he shall crush you on the head, or whatever. So whenever you ever see heels and serpents, you know there's something deep going on here. And Dan became one of the great tribes through Samson, didn't it? Samson was a Danite, and Samson's a very messianic figure. So Dan's got its role to play in all of this, and a lot of people see an end time thing with Dan, and the Antichrist, that he will really maybe be the one who opposes the Antichrist.
The tribe of Dan is the one missing from Revelation.
And the missing from Revelation as well, yes. So yeah, that's right. Needs weighing up. Huh? Yeah, but it's just that when you can get into Jacob's head. No, Ephraim's Joseph. Ephraim's is Joseph.
Yes, no,
so he,
just the name.
Yeah, okay. Then you can see what just spills out of Jacob's heart now, verse 18. I have waited for your salvation, O Yahovah, your Yeshua. Because you can see the momentum's building, it's getting more and more messianic all the time. And he just bursts out with, I have waited for your Yeshua, O Yah. And that word waited is so important. It's the word kava, and it's where you get that word for the Israel national anthem, tikva, the tikva, the hope. So this waiting, it's not just sort of sitting down waiting and going, oh yeah, no, I'm just waiting for that to happen, yeah, see you later, oh yeah, give us a shout when it happens. It's about waiting and expecting it, and looking for it, and desiring it, and really living in expectation and great hope of this salvation. It's not an idle, passive, oh yeah, I'm just waiting. Yeah, it'll happen one of these days. It's you're looking, you are lifting your head and looking up, because you know the day of salvation is getting very close. That's what this word wait is. It's not idle. It's someone who's on their toes, looking like a watchman, waiting. Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength and mount up with wings as eagles. They will run and not get weary. That's what waiting does for you. Waiting, we are to wait on him with expectation and hope. The tikva. God, again, say play on words, is a troop, because that's what the word God meant, troop. Shall tramp upon him, but he shall triumph at last. Bread from Asher shall be rich, and he shall, what does your translation say there, George? You read that out better last night.
He will provide food fit for the king.
He shall provide food fit for the king. Mine says, shall yield royal dainties, and I haven't got a clue what that means. But it's better what George says. He will provide food fit for the king. That's what Asher will do. He will provide food fit for the king. I love this one. Naphtali. Naphtali is a deer let loose. He uses beautiful words. I love that. Because it's a Song of Songs reference, and I need to read it, because this is beautiful. And I read this, and I just pray that this will stir you, and that you will hear his voice yourself now, And you'll go away and read this for yourself and take this personally, because this is when I got revived a few years ago. It was the likes of this that revived me. This is what made me realise, wow, this is speaking to me. I know you're speaking to me. I did. For 3 days I was lost, wasn't I? I was crying my eyes out, laughing my head off. Lynn thought I was going mad. I wasn't sure if I was going mad, and I said to June, if the fellas in white coats come to take me away, look after Lynn for us, will you? Because I didn't know, I wasn't sure what was going on, but it was beautiful. And when I said the fellas in white coats, I meant the angels. I meant to them angels come and kick. We're also going to get raptured at any minute. I was in ecstasy, because I knew God was speaking to me personally. And that's what that says. Naphtali is like a deer let loose. He speaks beautiful words. Well, let's just read this from the Song of Songs. I'm only going to go half an hour over tonight, I'm only messing. Chapter 2 of the Song of Songs, verse 8. The voice of my beloved. Ah, behold he comes, leaping upon the mountains, skipping upon the hills. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Same word, only it's the feminine version of it in Genesis, and it's obviously the masculine version. Whenever it's speaking of the Messiah, it's also speaking about us. You know, the bride of the Messiah. You've identified with that, haven't you? But one in him. We take on the feminine role, he does the masculine role, but he wants us to be like him. He wants us to be like these deers now that are going around and trying to wake people up. Come on, get your heads up, start getting into it. That he wants, because that's what he's like to us. That's what it's saying here. He's like a stag, I like a gazelle. Behold, he stands behind our wall. He is looking through the windows, gazing through the lattice. That's why Naphtali is like a deer let loose. There he is, there's the deer let loose, skipping freely on the mountains everywhere. Oh, he's fast, he's coming. This is why his words, he speaks beautiful words, and I don't think they get more beautiful than this. My beloved spoke and said to me, this is what he said to me, and I can't force this down your throat. I can just plead with you to take this person and know this is to you. Because I mean it, when I was having that time, it took me a time to adjust and realise he loved anyone else. I mean it. I was like, Daddy, he loves me. And then I had to readjust and go, oh yeah, he loves everyone else as well. Okay. That's it. And it's only because I knew how much he loved me, I can understand how much he loves everyone else. That work he done in me made me understand how much he loves everyone. Amen. But you've got to know how much he loves you before you can know how much he loves everyone else. But it took me a while to get my head around it and go, oh yeah, it's not just me, is it? Okay. It was a weird time. Seriously, it was a weird time. But it's still with me 4 or 5 years later. I can hear it. I wish I could feel it the same, but I can still hear it. Amen. This is his words. My beloved spoke and said to me, rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. Lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone, the flowers appear on the earth, the time of singing is come, and the voice of the turtle is heard in our land. This is read at Passover, this song, you see. So when Yeshua was saying in Matthew 24 and at the end time discourse, when you learn the parable of the fig tree, when the fig tree puts forth her green figs, no, it's near. That's he's using the language of the Song of Songs, because it's a Passover song. Verse 13, the fig tree puts forth her green figs, and the vines with the tender grapes give up a good smell. Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. Oh, my dove, in the clefts of the rock, just like Moses, in the secret places of the cliff, let me see your face. This is what he's saying to you. Let me see your face. I want to see your face. And I want to hear your voice, because your face is sweet. And that's why I knew he was talking to me. And then this just confirmed it. And your face is lovely. I'm like, your voice is sweet. And that's all he's saying. What Yeshua says, lift your heads. Lift your head. I want to see your face. I want to see. Are you expecting me? Are you taking me seriously? I want to hear your voice. I want to hear your voice, like in Revelation. The voice of the Spirit and the voice of the bride is, come Lord, come Lord. And he wants that. You know, the bridegroom wants to know his bride's interested. It's horrible being a bridegroom and your bride doesn't want to be there. And you're like, oh, will she be there? I don't know if I don't think she loves me really. You want your bride being there for you. You can't wait to see her. Well, that's what he's like. He's like the bridegroom going, are you excited? You know, do you love me? Can you really wait to this? Well, come on, let me see your face and let me hear your voice. Naphtali is a deer let loose. He speaks beautiful words. That's beautiful, isn't it?
Yes.
It is. Look, I mean, I'm not going to read the rest of that blessing because there's a lot to get into and I don't want to miss throughout the rest of it. So just quickly going to go through chapter 50. Is that okay? Just to finish us off. Is that alright? Because there's a lot to say. I just rubbish at timekeeping and all that. So, chapter 50. He's in chapter 49, verse 29. He's telling him to take him back to the field, the cave that Abraham had bought. And that's all important because you've been there in the past, but it's important to remember Abraham paid with money to buy this field, to bury his wife in. He was buried there, Isaac's buried there, Rebecca's buried there, and Jacob is saying, and Leah's buried there, and now take me back and bury me there. And this is as a testimony, you know, this is as a testimony now to Israel for the times to come, to go, we have got a land, you know, we've got a land, and God promised us 400 years we'd be in a bit of oppression, but then he will come and deliver us and take us to our land. And this should have been, and this is lessons for us, is the children of Israel should never have let that promise escape them. They should have clung to it, but the way it always works, over time, they forgot about it and they assimilated into Egypt and they thought it was cool, and then the next thing is they're getting oppressed and they're in bondage and it's horrible. So we need to cling to the promises of God, never let them escape. Chapter 50, just going to try and rattle through this in 5 minutes. Then Joseph fell on his father's face and wept over him and kissed him. It's always crying and weeping in this family. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Israel. 40 days were required for him, for such are the days required for those who were embalmed, and the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. Now when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spoke to the household of Pharaoh, saying, if now I have found favour in your eyes, please speak in the hearing of Pharaoh, saying, my father made me swear, saying, behold, I am dying in my grave, which I dug myself in the land of Canaan. There you shall bury me. Now therefore, please let me go up and bury my father, and I will come back. And Pharaoh said to him, go up, bury your father, as he made you swear. And it's the power of that covenant why Pharaoh's allowing this. Pharaoh probably was a much rather go, oh no, we'll build a lovely pyramid soon, and we'll get a statue outside, and everyone can come and worship the idol of Jacob. Pharaoh would have loved to set up that system, but because Joseph's saying, he made me swear, Pharaoh gets it. He's like, I understand that. I understand the power that you people have got in covenant, so go. If this Pharaoh's alright,
Yes.
you know, give him a break, this Pharaoh, he's alright. Verse 7, so Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of the house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt. What a procession this is. As well as the house of Joseph, his brothers, and his father's house. Only their little ones, their flocks and their herds, they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with them both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great gathering. Then they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan, and they mourned there with a great and very solemn lamentation. He observed 7 days of mourning for his father. And when the inhabitants of the land of Canaanites saw the mourning at the threshing floor of Atad, they said, this is a deep mourning of the Egyptians. Therefore its name is called Abel Mitzrayim, which is beyond the Jordan. Alright, Joyce? I know. A frog in your throat. So his sons died for him just as he had commanded them. For his sons carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the fields of Machpelah, which before Mamre, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephron, the terrorist, the Hittite, as property for a burial place. And after he buried his father, Joseph returned to Egypt, he and his brothers and all who went up with him to bury his father. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, perhaps Joseph will hate us and may actually repay us for all the evil which we did to him. The sages say that this happened as they were going back to Israel and came right to the place where the pit was, where Joseph had been cast into the pit. Remember that place? And that's what the sages say, that they come to that place and they saw the pit and they're all going, oh no, Joseph's going to get on it now, and remember it all.
It's probably a caravan route.
Yeah, well, of course it would be, and that's where he got sold into slavery, so it's very likely that it is. It's not as if they had motorways all over the place. So they're panicking, and they sent messages to Joseph saying, before your father died, he commanded it, saying, thus you shall say to Joseph, I beg you, please forgive the trespass of your brothers and their sin, for they did evil to you. Now please forgive the trespass of the servants of the God of your father. And Joseph wept when they spoke to him. Then his brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, behold, we are your servants. And Joseph said to them, don't be afraid, for am I in the place of God? But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring it about, as it is this day, to save many people alive. Now therefore, don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. And this is what Yeshua is like, isn't it? He didn't come back from the grave and go, what? You killed me? Oh, I'm going to batter you now. He came and said, I love yous. Peace, shalom. What you intended for evil, God intended for good. And Yeshua is like Joseph, or vice versa. Joseph's like Yeshua. He hasn't got an axe to grind. He's merciful and forgiving because he understands. And Yeshua hasn't got an axe to grind with us. He's like, Sam, this was the plan of God. I was meant to die. I was meant to do this. I was meant to take the sins upon myself to set you free. Don't blame yourselves now. You were born into sin. That's why you had to be born again.
Yeah.
It's lovely. It's only a few verses now. Verse 22. So Joseph dwelt in Egypt, he and his father's household, and Joseph lived 110 years. Joseph saw Ephraim's children to the third generation. The children of Machir, the son of Manasseh, were also brought up on Joseph's knees. And we talk about this later in the Torah, but just so you know now, this was, remember, the daughters of Zelophehad, when they want an inheritance in the land, and they come and they say to Moshe, yeah, just because we're daughters, we want an inheritance. And they were the very daughters of Machir, because you can see this chap, Machir, was brought up on Joseph's knees, and you can imagine how intensely he taught in the Torah, saying, lad, the promise of God to Abraham was, we will be in a land where we will be slaves, but the day will come when he will visit us, and he will, with a mighty hand, deliver us from this place. And so, certain of the Israelites really took this message to heart, and kept it, and taught it to their children, and in time to come, their children's children will turn out to Moshe and go, we know we've got an inheritance in the land, we know the Torah, we know the promises of God, and we're not letting them go. They're the wise virgins, because there was 5 daughters, wasn't it? The 5 wise daughters of Machir. And Joseph said to his brethren, I am dying, but God will surely visit you. And that's massive, that, visit you. This is when, in the nativity story, in the time when John the Baptist was getting born and Yeshua was getting conceived, this is what they said then, the God of Abraham our father has visited his people. So this visitation is always pointing to the Messiah, the visitation of the Messiah. And Joseph's prophesying the first level of that now. He's saying, God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land to the land of which he swore to Abraham, to Isaac and to Jacob. Then Joseph took an oath from the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you. You shall carry up my bones from here. my bones. And that's got to stay with us now. I've said this so many times in the past, but on the journey we're about to go on now, when we're going to come out of Egypt, and be making our way to Israel, and all of that doubt's going to set in. All of those complaints will start going, oh, we've got no food, and we've got no water, and these brothers are here to kill us. Just remember, Joseph's bones are on this journey, and that's because God swore to take him back. Jacob said, you will not stay in this land, God will take you back. And so Joseph's saying, make sure when God visits you, get my bones out of here. Don't leave my bones in the land of Egypt. Because he has faith. And he's saying, I want my bones going. So when we're on that journey, always remember, Joseph's bones are with us. And we're going to make it to the land because of his bones and nothing else. Because he had the faith. And that should be with us all the way through the journey now. Joseph's bones. Because we're going to finish right now. But we were talking about last night, Ezekiel 36 in it is the valley of dry bones. When there's all these bones, and God says to Ezekiel, speak to them bones, lad. Speak to them bones and watch what happens. They'll come back to life and flesh will grow on them. And this is all a picture of what God is going to do and is doing in our day now. Gathering the house of Israel. And that's what Paul said. When this happens, it's going to be like life from the death. And it's happening, isn't it, as we speak. Yeah. So the last verse, Joseph died, being 110 years old. They embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt, all ready to be taken to Israel in be a couple of 100 years' time. That's how it lasts. So at the end of the Torah portion, it's tradition to say, Kazakh, Beinitz Kazakh, and we're all going to say that together. Kazakh, Beinitz Kazakh, and that means be strong, and let's strengthen each other. That's what it means. So sorry for going on a little bit longer, but we wanted to finish Genesis, didn't we? So we finished it. Well done, everyone. Thanks for the attendance throughout.